Hi there, what's poppin'? Welcome to this podcast where we talk about the ins, the outs, and the in-between of anything pop culture. I'm Darren, one-fourth of your host in this podcast, and together with me are three other poppin' human beings, which thankfully graced us with their presence.
Hi! I hope you're all having a great day so far. It's Aliyah, your resident Peter Rance Bestie.
What's popping? I'm Faye, 3/4 of your host in today's podcast. And just a little bit of spoiler, I guess.
Time travel with a pop of fun and a lot of trivia at that. Hi, to complete the four of us, I'm Brian. Anyway, as what Faye said, we're going to time travel today. Obviously, it's time travel in a sense that we're going to explore a little bit of what was then and connect it to what is now. Kind of like going down memory lane. Did that make sense?
Sure did, Ryan, sure did. But to add to that, let me go back to our resident Twitter runs bestie. I liked her introduction. So Twitter. Actually, I've been in the social media platform for a while now, and I've seen how such a powerful tool it is. I mean, what? All it takes is a 280 character limit. Is that right?
280 characters. Yes, that's right.
See, imagine the information or the thought you had to trim down only for it to fit in one tweet. Do you think that's why people use shortcuts now? You know, like, talk to you later to TTYL, be right back to BRB, just abbreviations after abbreviations. It's so popular.
Definitely, that is so true. We've also seen for ourselves how useful hashtags are. A certain tweet could also be trending worldwide. Where did this Filipino pop culture came from? Well, clearly Twitter is an example of a digital tool which allowed the dissemination and influence of pop culture to flourish. I think my question actually is, how do Filipinos know what's popular and what is not?
Indeed. And apart from Twitter, we also have a lot more social media platforms which tons of Filipinos use on a day-to-day basis. With that, I do think this is where we start to walk down the steps our ancestors previously walked on, to trace and to understand this Filipino pop culture we now have.
Wow, the introduction and discussion we have up to this point is just so interesting. This makes me so excited. So first order of business, I think, is to decide what popular culture really means. Popular culture or pop culture is a set of practices, beliefs, and objects that embody the most broadly shared meanings of a social system. It includes entertainment, media objects, fashion, trends, and what was previously mentioned earlier, linguistic conventions like your TTYL and BRP, and some other slangs.
Yeah, basically, pop culture is what's popular.
Now, how did pop culture in the Philippines started?
I guess you could say that as evident as it is in our history, Philippine pop culture began as far back as the Spanish colonization. It was referenced in a study that pop culture was introduced to the Filipinos in order to influence them in accepting Spanish culture. It was said that it began through literature and the arts, like the music and the dances, as well as the different celebrations we still observe until today.
OMG! Hashtag colonization through pop culture.
Yeah, our own native Filipino scholars utilize the pop culture introduced to them as a tool to break away from the lies and deception. They began using literature, songs, and the art to reveal the truth and to reclaim the land that is rightfully ours.
What has come then of peach pop culture after that?
Oh, I know this part. American influence in Philippine pop culture, I guess, had the most lasting impression on us Filipinos, with their films, the way they dress, their music, and their entertainment industry. It's actually still pretty evident in today's time.
Right, especially since they're huge consumers and users of digital media. So definitely in today's digital age, we're greatly influenced by Western content producers and Western audiences themselves.
To add to that, we have this communication theory called agenda setting theory, wherein media influences people to focus its attention on something under a certain agenda, more like conditioning the audience to think this certain way without explicitly telling them to do so. This happens when a news item doesn't actually seem that big of a deal, suddenly makes the front page. Thus, it's sensationalism.
We have to be very vigilant on these things because these are also examples of how pop culture is being mobilized and used to influence public opinion. Before we conclude today's podcast, I hope you remember this quote I will leave on here. Popular culture is power. and whoever wills it to manipulate minds is likely to find his literary and technological machinery turned against him. When the mindset is manipulated, discover its potency as a political weapon.
Wow!
I second the motion. Wow.
Now that we've explored the history of Philippine pop culture, it actually makes me excited about its next. What could it become, and what more could it flourish into?
For now, though, I guess we have to end our Poppin' episode here.
Thank you everyone for listening. Please do remember to be vigilant at all times. This has been Darren, Aaliyah, Clarence, and Brian of the Poppin' Podcast. Till our next Poppin' episode, have a more Poppin' day.